All right, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining us for another community AMA. So, usually, what we do is we go through the AMA questions on our Discord first, and then if we ever run out, we switch over to Twitter. Today, I saw that we have someone requesting to speak on Twitter already, so I think I'm going to start over there. And then after that, we can move to the Discord questions. So, let me invite Cuffy on stage, and yeah, let's hear their question. What?
Just want to say, first of all, I feel honored that you've chosen me to speak first over the Discord members. I know there's probably a few in there with some really good questions. Um, but hello, my name is Cuffy. That's what they call me, anyways. Big fan of the project. Been holding a lot of the NFTs, and obviously I swap coins from one coin to another, and Liffinity helps facilitate all of that. So very happy with the product so far. I'm curious, what have you guys done for cybersecurity in the past? It's not something I've exactly looked into for Liffinity, but it's something I kind of focus on. I was just curious if you even have a security partner.
Yeah, so I guess are you referring to whether we are audited or not?
At the minimum, yes. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so we're not audited yet. Getting an audit is on our roadmap. It's been on our roadmap from the very start before we did our VE IDO. But to do the audit, we first want to build out all the things that we said we were going to build out, so that we can get everything audited all at once. So some of the things we haven't built out yet, most notably, is the mechanism for acquiring more protocol-owned liquidity. So this is where we sell Liffinity at a discount to acquire LP tokens. And we don't have that program yet because main reason being we still have liquidity that's not been deployed yet. So we will probably build that after we deploy all our liquidity. Then we also have the bribing mechanism, which we also have to build out. So yeah, the plan is to first build all those things and then get the audit after that.
Amazing. Yeah. If at any point in time you think you might need help with it or you're ready to get audited, I mean, I know a really good I mean, check out if you check my bio, cybersecurity plug. It's kind of all I focus on. As a community member as well as a cybersecurity guy, just want to make sure all of this stuff is secure in the first place. So, I would like to see a lot of this stuff through because I know how much liquidity goes through your guys' pools, and I would hate to see it, disappear. So, if you want to stay in touch, you need a cybersecurity guy.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate that.
Thanks for letting me speak. Appreciate it. On to the next.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks for the question. Um, let's see. Looks like we have another request to speak. All right, we have River Gorilla. How's it going? Hey.
Yo, so what even is this project? I just got showed this project right now by my friend, but he didn't explain anything what this project was. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot going on with our project. So, um, did your friend show you the NFTs or the tokens?
He showed me both. He showed me the NFT and then the token, but I have no idea what it is. And he got off right now, so yeah, he couldn't really explain it to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I'll just give you the broad overview. So, most fundamentally, we're a DEX. So we facilitate trading. Um, and yeah, we have two parts to our project, two major parts, the NFTs and the tokens. So the NFTs is what we started with. We raised a bunch of SOL through selling these NFTs, our flares, and then we deposited all that SOL into our liquidity pools. And so we use it to trade on our DEX, and that earns trading fees and also a market making profit. And the team didn't take any profit from the sale of the NFTs. All of it went into the liquidity pools where it still is. And the revenue from the trading fees and also the royalties from the NFTs are used to buy back the NFTs. So yeah, the mechanism is intended to gradually increase the floor price over time. So that's a TLDR of the NFTs. And then our tokens, we did an IDO about 2 months ago. Raised capital, we put about 80% of what we raised into the pools, so kind of similar to the NFTs. And then 20%, about 20% went to fund the team. And that works like a revenue sharing model, and also does buybacks. So so the token is LFNTY. So these Liffinity tokens, you can lock them to get VE Liffinity. And the more VE Liffinity you have, the larger share of the revenue you get. So basically, like half of the revenue is distributed directly to VE Liffinity holders, and then the other half is used for buybacks of Liffinity. That's the TLDR of Liffinity.
I get it. Wait, so when did you guys sell out? And when you guys sold out, did you mainly keep it in Sol, or did you instantly transfer it to USDC? Or what was the percentage like?
Yeah, so we sold out in December. Yeah, we sold the NFTs in December. 1.5 Sol each. We sold out in about 2 hours, and we converted. Let's see. I believe we just immediately sold like half the Sol or something. It's like back when Sol was $170 or something. And yeah, so because we needed to sell half the Sol, or we needed USDC so we could provide liquidity on our decks. So yeah.
I see. So half the Sol was turned into USDC, and then the other half is allocated to Sol to be used on the DEX.
Yeah, so we just paired the USDC with the Sol and deposited that into our decks.
Alright, I got it. I appreciate it, man. I'll let other people talk to you.
Cool, no worries. Always great to see new people joining. So yeah, thanks for the question. All right. Let's see. Is there anyone else? I don't think there is. All right, cool. So for now, let's move on to the questions on the Discord then. All right. Here we go. All right. So first question we have from Tajuma. They ask, could you please speak a bit about could you excuse me, could you please speak a bit about how the team prioritizes where to put its development efforts first? Does it always work like making things to improve Liffinity's unique selling point is greater than anything else, end quote? Or do you have regular meetings to tweak the near-term strategy? Yeah, so basically the overall structure of how we prioritize things is the number one priority is increasing the profitability of our protocol. Everything else is more of a cosmetic thing, a UI UX thing. So yeah, what's most important to us is making more money more efficiently. And so anything that falls in that category takes precedence. And then like UI and UX, these things are also important, just not as important, right? And then also, yeah, things that are like convenient. So I mean, so just to give some examples, so we're always monitoring our pools and their current fees and their level of concentration and things like this. So we tweak these parameters. We mentioned recently that we've been changing the fees. We doubled it from 0.04 to 0.08, and now we've been testing 0.12% as well. The optimal level of fees often changes depending on the market circumstances. Basically, how wide a spread other market makers are quoting and how much liquidity they have. So yeah, it's something we have to continually adjust. And another thing we're doing to increase profitability is opening new pools. So we recently just opened a UXD Sol pool, and some of you may have seen the announcement where we're going to be opening a Pi Sol pool as well. Both of those pools are part of our market making as a service offering that we announced maybe a month ago or so. And yeah, we're looking to do more of those types of partnerships because they are good for profitability, and also opens an avenue for us to deploy more liquidity if the protocol chooses the liquidity as a service option instead of the market making as a service option. So yeah, those are the types of things that take priority. And then some of the secondary things. One is I just made an announcement today about our compound to VE Liffinity button. So this is where users will be able to, instead of just claiming their reward assets, talking about VE Liffinity holders right now, instead of just claiming their assets, they'll be able to, with a click of a button, convert all of their reward assets to 4-year locked VE Liffinity. This is something that a bunch of people have been asking for, so it's a quality of life improvement type of thing. And it's also good for keeping rewards in the ecosystem. Or in other words, like it's good for the price of Liffinity. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, so we have like dashboards, which is something we've talked about for a while. But it hasn't been like at the top of the priority list. But I mean, like lots of people want more visibility into data related to Liffinity, whether that's our DEX or the tokens or the flares. So like it would be a great quality of life improvement. I know there's tons of stats that I would like to see, but that doesn't increase profitability. So that's why it's not a top priority. Yeah. So I hope that gives some context. Right now, like there's just so much to do in terms of increasing profitability. I think at some later point there will be much less to do, and that's when we'll be able to dedicate more time to these other aspects. But yeah, I hope that clarifies how we prioritize things. All right, let me take a sip. All right, next question. We have Aneti asking, when could we see a dashboard that lists real-time data, like the number of VE Liffinity staked and the number of X Liffinity and Liffinity in circulation? Yes, I guess I just kind of talked about this, but looking at our dashboards channel in our Discord, we have a lot of stats that we want to show. It's pretty detailed. So yeah, those things are definitely planned, those things and much more. And yeah, I guess I just talked about how they are prioritized, which is why we don't have them yet. But yeah, the dashboards is something we will probably release gradually. Like we're not going to get every single stat in that channel all at once. We'll add them one by one or in chunks. So yeah, no timeline for it, but I mean, yeah, definitely something we're working on. So yeah. All right, Dioforce asks, did you do the surprise flare buyback? Yeah, so about an hour ago or something, there was somebody bought like 50 flares all of a sudden and raised the floor price quite a bit. So I think they're referring to that. But yeah, that was not us. That was somebody else. I still don't know who that was. They also bought a bunch of Liffinity tokens. But yeah, no surprise buyback from us. Epramino asks, do you have a plan to do an AMA with our existing and upcoming partners, such as UXD, Pi, Hubble, and Marinade? The AMA can be hosted in their respective discords for better exposure of Liffinity, and why they choose to have liquidity on our DEX. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, we haven't talked about that at all, so yeah, we can definitely consider that. Let's see. Yeah, let me just take a note real quick. Let's see, AMA with partner protocols. Yeah, no promises, but yeah, I think that is a good idea at the very least. All right, cool. Well, we've already reached the end of our questions so far, although these do tend to trickle in, so we'll wait. Nobody raising their hand on Discord, Twitter either. So yeah, I guess I'll just wait a little bit. Yeah, so usually we do our AMAs about like 8 hours later from now, but wanted to switch it up, give people from different time zones the opportunity to join. So, all right, we got Lieutenant Lollipop requesting to speak. So, how's it going? I don't, I don't know if you're talking.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, so I just had one question about the governance scope on flares. Is there any? I just couldn't recall, and there wasn't any other questions. So, was there any link or was it ever specified what the full scope of the governance in the Flare DAO is, or what a Flare allows within the Flare DAO itself?
Yeah, so in our original article introducing the flares, we mentioned that the flares govern the bought back flares. Um, and that is the extent of what they govern. They now also have some funds that have mainly come in from the graveyard exchange and also from the auction we did for that rare flare. I think there's something like 40 soul or something in the DAO wallet. So there's that also. But yeah, the flares do not govern, for example, the buyback mechanism, um, or the flare owned liquidity. So like the team can offer to the team can be like they can give a choice to the flares regarding certain things. But yeah, the flares don't have like detailed control over those funds or the mechanism.
And I think that's really the key piece is that any alterations to things like Flare own liquidity to that group by the team, correct?
Sorry, you got cut off a bit there. Could you repeat that?
Sorry. Is this better?
Yeah, I think so. I can hear you.
Okay. Um, so basically, the key point here is that in elements of the Flare DAO or the flares, whatever it is, like the protocol and liquidity, governance is limited to the scope of the team having to push anything regarding liquidity or things not regarding the graveyard flares, basically. That would have to be pushed by the team and initiated by the team. If there was any type of discussion regarding things within the Flare graveyard, or again, like you said, the Flare wallet from the auction, that would be within scope of the governance of the Flare DAO to initiate votes, correct? That could potentially develop into votes.
Yeah, 100%. Like anything can potentially turn into a vote. Um, it's basically so it's similar to like Liffinity's the token's current state. If you read part 5 of the tokenomics, we basically say that the team decides what things will be put to a vote, and so it's like similar um, with the flares. Basically, like I think our community knows like we deeply care about what the community thinks, and so like we're always taking input from the community, and if there's like something about the flares that like there's a significant consensus in the community that they don't like and they want to change, like it's very likely that we will change that. But yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that perfectly answers it. No, I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, man. Always, it's great to have you in the community, and always love that you're so vocal and so active.
Of course, happy to help.
All right. In the meantime, we've gotten a bunch of questions on the Discord, it looks like, so I'm gonna return to those. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Kalon asks, now that you removed the Liffinity X-Liffinity ARB, could you explain a bit how the LP pool will benefit VE holders now? All right, so just to give everyone some context, Kalon is referring to a recent proposal where we create a Liffinity X-Liffinity pool, and then we also buy back X-Liffinity in addition to Liffinity. And then we also add liquidity to the Liffinity X-Liffinity pool. So it's a pretty complex proposal. And I don't want to get into every single detail right now, but that's the gist of it. And so when Kalon says that we removed the Liffinity X-Liffinity ARB, what he means is the proposal says to buy back whichever is cheaper. At least the original proposal said to buy back whichever is cheaper. So if there's a gap between Liffinity and X-Liffinity, our buybacks would always work to close that gap, buying whichever one is cheaper. So actually, that was the original proposal. But actually, this is not true that we have removed the ARB. In the new proposal, there's two requirements that have to be passed for us to buy X-Liffinity. The first one is that the X-Liffinity has to be at least 10% cheaper than Liffinity. So that already makes the closing of the ARB impossible. The max that we can close the ARB is up to 10%. So for example, if Liffinity is at 40 cents, we can only buy X-Liffinity if it's 36 cents or less. So actually, that ARB will still be there. The ARB he's talking about, by the way, for VE Liffinity holders is where they unlock their VE Liffinity. They get access to their Liffinity tokens, unlocked Liffinity tokens. They can then sell those Liffinity on the market for, say, like 40 cents, and then use that to buy X-Liffinity at, say, 36 cents. And now you've increased your your 4-year locked VE Liffinity stack. So that ARB is still possible with this modified proposal because we can't close the gap entirely. There's still that 10% gap that we can't close. And actually, that's just the first condition. The second condition is that, let's see, the price implied by the Liffinity X-Liffinity pool also serves as a cap. So so that can't be higher than the discount of X-Liffinity on the market. That's a mouthful. Anyways, yeah, if anyone's interested in looking, I just encourage you to read the announcements because it's pretty long, and yeah, it's better suited for that, I would say. But anyways, the ARB is still there. TLDR, the ARB is still there. The protocol, when it buys X-Liffinity, it's basically just buying it when it's like very favorable to us. And also, we're not providing like too much exit liquidity to X-Liffinity holders. That's the intention behind the modified proposal. All right, so second part, or your question is, could you explain a bit how the LP pool will benefit VE holders now? The LP pool. When you say the LP pool, I guess you're talking about the Liffinity X-Liffinity pool. Kalon is typing. Okay, they say I've pretty much explained it. Yeah, but I guess I'll just briefly try to explain what the benefit of creating that pool at all is and the protocol providing liquidity to it. So somebody created a Liffinity, X-Liffinity pool on Sencha, which is a protocol for permissionlessly creating constant product market makers. All right, Lieutenant Lollipop was the one who created that pool. I didn't know if they wanted um, to be named or not. But anyways, yeah, I guess they're proud of it. So more power to you. Yeah, so that pool was created, and yeah, so basically people could then deposit Liffinity and X-Liffinity to start earning trading fees when people traded on that pool. And because it's a constant product pool, it basically has a tighter spread than on Serum. On Serum, like the spread tends to be quite wide for X-Liffinity. Like right now, the lowest bid is 39 cents, and the highest bid rather is 39 cents, and the lowest ask is 46 cents. So let's see, it's a 7 cent spread. What percent is that? Is it like a 15% spread? I don't know. It's quite large. So like yeah, that's the downside from the taker's perspective. That is a downside of that pool. Whereas if you have a constant product pool, the spread is basically just the trading fee plus the slippage. And so often that can be less than, you can get a better price on these constant product pools than you will on Serum. Not always, but sometimes. And also, it's a much easier way to provide liquidity if you want to capture those fees. If you're on Serum, basically what you want is like a bot that adjusts your bids and asks depending on what other people place there, which is like pretty complex, right? Like you need to be a programmer to like do this effectively. And if you're just like looking to get like stink bids filled, where you have like a bid for 20 cent X Liffinity, like you can do that, of course. You just place a bid there and hope somebody fills it. But if you're trying to do like at the top of the book, like the highest bid and the lowest ask, then you probably need a bot if you want to get much volume, anyways. But if you use a constant product pool, you don't need to do that. Like everyone's on the same playing field. It's a level playing field. You just deposit liquidity and the rest is automated. So it's like very convenient. Anyways, so once that pool was created, it had a 0.3% fee, which is pretty low, I think. So basically, like you could increase the fee much more, I think, and still quote better prices than Serum. So it seems like a missed opportunity. And since that pool is already created, we think it makes sense to create a pool on our own DEX so we ourselves can capture those trading fees. And we can also adjust the fee. We can make it like say 1%, which would be much more. Yeah. So the benefit of creating the pool to VE Liffinity holders is that if we provide liquidity into it, then we can capture trading fees, which just get captured in the pool. So basically, it will gradually take out Liffinity and X-Liffinity out of the circulating supply, lock it in the pool, which increases liquidity. And also, I mean, if there's less Liffinity and X-Liffinity, it makes them that much more valuable. So it just seems like a win-win for the Liffinity ecosystem as a whole. All right, whew, that was a long rant. All right, going to move on to the next question. We have White Turtle Bill asking, how does the team feel about the improvement in statistics from the Liffinity revenues when comparing the last 2 months? Let's see, last 2 months. So let's take a look at those. In our monthly revenue channel, you can see our monthly revenue, although it's not perfectly monthly yet. But yeah, so in May we had an APR of 12%, and then in June we also had an APR of 12%. But as explained in the announcement, we actually were more profitable. So the thing is, the way the APR is calculated, it's based on the price of Liffinity. So that means all else being equal, if the price of Liffinity goes up, the APR goes down, because the APR is denominated, or yeah, the revenue is denominated in assets that are not Liffinity. We just show it as USD. So if the USD value of Liffinity goes up, then the percent amount you're earning per Liffinity goes down. I hope that makes sense. So from May to June, the value of Liffinity went up, and therefore the APR, all else being equal, went down. But so what that means is the absolute, but yeah, and then we ended up with approximately the same APR. So what that means is, in absolute terms, like if you think about it from the perspective of how much USD did our DEX earn per day, for example, then the amount increased, which is a good sign. It means we became more profitable. But of course, that's dependent on a lot of factors, like how much trading volume there was, and how fierce the competition is, and I mean it's very multivariate. You can't just like say, oh, the DEX improved its market making abilities. Yeah, there's a lot of factors, so it's like not that straightforward. But anyways, all things considered, the profitability going up is obviously a great thing. So yeah, yeah, yeah. To answer your question, how does the team feel about it? I mean, we feel good, and we're adding more pools, so that should improve profitability. So yeah, it's good. All right, K57 asks, if one day a similar oracle to Pith comes to another blockchain, do you plan to deploy Liffinity on that blockchain? Maybe, but yeah, I mean, like, I feel like we get this question quite frequently, but whether to launch on another blockchain is like, that's a huge, huge project, you know? Um, like everything's going to be different. Like, I don't know where to start, First of all, the chain. So, I mean, I don't even know what it means to have a similar oracle to Pith on another chain, because what really matters for the design of our market making mechanism is the latency. Solana is aiming for 400 millisecond block times. Right now it's like 600 milliseconds or something. On other chains, it's much, much slower. Like, I always forget. Ethereum is like 3 seconds or 13 seconds or something. Can't remember. But yeah, like all other chains are basically tend to be much slower than Solana. And that opens us up to greater front running risk. So yeah, yeah. It's a very difficult. So that's one thing. And then like if it's on another blockchain, we have to program everything from scratch, probably in another language, whatever language that chain utilizes. And so that's a whole nother thing. Like, what if our devs don't even know that language? What if they have to learn it? Like that'd be a huge, huge time sink, right? So yeah, there's just like so many considerations, and also like the competition will look very different than it does on Solana. Yeah, like everything, literally everything would be different. So it's like a huge consideration. So like, will we one day deploy on another blockchain? Like I have no fucking clue. Like maybe, but Yeah, I mean that's not something we're focused on right now. That's the bottom line. Like right now, uh, let's we're just focused on Solana. Let's become majorly successful here first, and then we can start thinking about things like that. Right now, there's just so much left to do on Solana, so yeah, we're just gonna keep trucking along that path. All right. Let's see. JCX04 asks, "Hey, do you have any update about the proposal made to Marinade a few days ago? I apologize if this was already addressed." Yeah, so let's see. I'm not sure how much of the discussion on the forums you read. Like that's how you can stay up to date. Um, so after the proposal, someone asked some questions. I wrote a very long response explaining how Liffinity was beneficial to Marinade, why it requires a custom oracle, and stuff like that. And then just yesterday, one of the team members responded. So I have to respond to that. Yeah, they responded like right before I went to bed, and then I had a bunch of stuff to do this morning, so I'm gonna be working on that today. Yeah, so like not really much concrete things I can say. Like just check it out on the forums is what I would say. That's where you can keep up to date. All right. Benox asks, "Can you comment on the state of blockchain DeFi?" Well, that's a very broad topic. Um,
Let me take this one second.
sure, go ahead.
No, what?
I mean, if you're gonna pop out of nowhere like that, now you gotta answer it.
I'll just say it's good. It will be better in the future. It will continually get better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that. um, yeah, DeFi. Wow, so broad. Um, I don't know if I have much of anything intelligent to say on that. Maybe you can make your question more specific, and then maybe I can say something worth listening to. But yeah, otherwise, like Lieutenant Lollipop said, it's good and it'll get better. I mean, that's like my broad view on it.
Well, to be quite honest, we don't know what it's going to lead to right now. We're still figuring a lot out. We see a lot of pieces, a lot of mechanisms that could work well together, and we see a lot of potential that people are putting these pieces together. We're going to see what it can really come to fruition to in the next few years. We'll build off that platform, I think, to innovate and build a lot of what the next few decades probably going to be built off of.
Yep, I'm in agreement with that. So, all right, gonna check if anyone on Twitter is requesting to speak. Yeah, we have Wilfred Michael. I've brought you on stage. How's it going? You're muted in case you're not aware.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was also gonna comment a little on a question about we're going to see in DeFi over the next few years. For instance, yeah, one of the reasons I actually got interested in Liffinity is how you've structured the project, right? It's a lot of improvement on what we've known DeFi for. Most of the DEXs are just concentrated on liquidity mining incentives, and it's especially unique that Liffinity chose to go on a different path. So that, I think it gives a glimpse of what we are going to see in DeFi over the next few years. And we are gradually moving away from the basics, right? Liquidity mining, and all those other farming incentives that don't add much value to the ecosystem, instead of dumping prices on retail investors, right? So we're probably gonna that front in the years ahead, and I'm highly optimistic about what people are building, and we'll see, like Lollipop said, we'll see over the next few years how far we can take it from here.
Yeah, I partially agree. I think it depends on the person. Like I think so people like you and me who have, you know, probably been wrecked by some other dexes and impermanent loss and like played that liquidity mining game. I know I did, and uh, almost always did not end well for me. So us, like, you know, we're like that experience is what causes us to look for other projects that are doing things differently and are earning sustainable yield. But if you're new to blockchain, like, you know, I think there will still be plenty of people who come in and just see the APR and are like, holy shit, gotta, and then they ape into it, and you know, like you just gotta experience it. Like similar to, you know, how you often hear people talk about if this is your first cycle in crypto, then you're gonna get wrecked. But like in your second cycle, you're more aware, so you don't get as wrecked. And yeah, it's like a learning process, right? So, and like since most of the world is still not into crypto, like there's still going to be tons of people, I think, who go through that learning experience. So yeah, I think there's still um, much more progress to be made in terms of like education and stuff. Um,
For the record, I've gone through 3 cycles and I've been wrecked each time, so I'm learning hedging now.
hey, better late than never, right? All right. Let's see. It looks like Binox has asked a follow-up question. So it says, does the shit show elsewhere highlight how robust the Liffinity protocol is? It's non-Ponzi, low risk, and designed to be agnostic to market volatility. Yeah, I mean, I think the low risk is debatable. Depends on which aspect you're talking about, probably. You know, some people will look at like we're not audited, we're not open source, um, our team isn't doxed. You know, for some people those things matter immensely, and so they would not call it low risk. Uh, I think it's difficult to argue that we're a Ponzi. So yeah, I think the non-Ponzi part is definitely awesome. And yeah, we're definitely able to handle market volatility better than other dexes, or you know, or in other words, we mitigate a lot of impermanent loss or even reverse it sometimes. Yeah. Not sure if that was a question or if it was you're answering your own question. Anyways, Autocatalytic asks, how's the custom Oracle working so far for the UXD pool? I think it's working good. So right now it has about 400K of volume for about a 1 million in liquidity pool. So this is like it doesn't have as much volume as Sol USDC or Sol USDT has, which is expected since UXD isn't traded as much as USDC or USDT. But like that's quite decent volume. So yeah, I think it's doing good. One thing that's still yet to be seen is how it does in terms of impermanent loss. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it fares relative to like Sol USDC for the market making profit part. But yeah. trading fees looking pretty good so far. Lieutenant Lollipop says, when Liffinity Hawaii yacht party? Yeah. Uh, hmm. Probably pretty far off. um, let's see. I mean, I don't know if is a yacht our vibe really? Like we got the flares, so don't we need like a fire vibe, not a water vibe? What's a fire thing? Should we do a fire festival round 2? If you know, you know. No, let's not do that. Burning Man, that's it. Let's do something Burning Man themed. That'd be dope. Yeah, okay. Let's see. All right, no one else on Twitter for now. And I see no questions on the Discord either, so maybe I'll give it a little more wait time and all right. Smitten asks, any news on merch? No news. One community member did so like back to the question I answered earlier about priorities. Like merch is pretty down there because it'd probably benefit relatively few people, even though like some people I know would be like super down to get merch, but it's not really um yeah. I hope it's clear why it's a low priority thing. But like merch would be awesome, right? Um and there's been some great ideas for merch. So it's definitely something we want to do. And then one user did contact me and they were like, hey, would it be cool if I um, created some prototypes and see how much it would cost to like get a store up and something like that, which was awesome that they are taking that initiative. So I'm kind of waiting for them to see what they're going to come up with. Yeah. All right, JDB asks, what do you feel is the biggest risk to the project at the moment? Let's see, biggest risk. So one I've thought about, I don't think that, okay, this is probably not the biggest, but one that I think is interesting is right now we use Pith and it's free. Eventually, Pith will launch a token and they will, in order to consume their Oracle data, we'll need to pay probably in their token, I think, to consume that data. So that will be an additional cost that we don't have right now. So yeah, the question is how large will that cost be? And honestly, I have no idea. But I guess, like I'm assuming it won't be that large because otherwise like no one would use it. So I assume it's going to be quite cheap, but like I just don't know. So yeah, that's one thing. Biggest risk. I mean, so like for example, a catastrophic scenario, if I were to imagine one, would be where like Pith publishes the wrong price, and then we make like a horrible trade. Like for example, we sell Sol for like $1 or something, and it's a trade, so it'd be like irreversible, right? But I think Pith's Oracle is pretty robust. They have a lot of data providers, and their algorithm for aggregating the data is also good, and they have confidence intervals as well. We have safety checks in place. So I think that's probably okay. Um, then there's the Jupiter aspect where like we're reliant on Jupiter to get a bunch of volume, right? So if Jupiter never expands, if increasingly more users don't use Jupiter, that would suck for us. Like, so one thing is the way Orca and Radium, at least traditionally, have operated is like they try to get various apps to integrate their DEX directly. And so when you swap on whatever app's website or whatever, it routes you to Orca or to Radium. And yeah, instead of Jupiter. And from an ecosystem perspective, like it would definitely be better to integrate with Jupiter. The reason being that the traders would get better prices that way. Like it's just a no-brainer, right? Like why would you limit yourself to a single DEX? There's no UX advantage because Jupiter UX is amazing. I mean, Orca's is great too, but it's like, like they're basically like equivalent in terms of the goodness of the UX. Actually, Jupiter might be better. So I guess one other aspect is like the SDK. How easy is it to integrate Jupiter versus Orca, say? And I think from what I hear, like I'm not a dev, so I don't know, but like I've heard, the Orca SDK is great, and I've also heard the Jupiter SDK is great. So I assume like there's no like significant difference there either. But yeah, I'm not really sure like how these decisions get made. So if like places just kept integrating Radium or Orca and not Jupiter, that would suck for us. It wouldn't ruin us because we already get like decent volume. Like we're already making good revenue, right? So even if like things stayed as they currently are, like that's still like fine for us. But it would be a lost opportunity. There's so much more room, there's so much more volume that could be captured by us. If only the swappers knew that they could get better prices on Jupiter. Yeah. Let's see. Any other risks? There's always like hacking risk. Yeah, and the thing is, it was like all these risks I'm mentioning, like it's really difficult to assign probabilities to them. So it's hard to say like which one is the biggest risk. Not really sure. But I mean, there definitely are risks. But none I'm like super duper worried about at the moment, at least. Yeah. All right. Okay. Binox asks, people often ask me whether a dust pool is being considered here. It's the prime shitcoin on Solana. I thought we were the prime shitcoin. Or have we graduated from shitcoin? I kid. But Dust, I don't think Dust is supported by Pith, right? And that's a requirement, basically, unless we're going to create a custom oracle. But yeah, custom oracles only make sense for basically stable coins or Sol-based tokens, like staked Sol tokens, like MSol and ST-Sol and stuff. So yeah, making a custom oracle for Dust wouldn't really be meaningful. Yeah, so basically Dust would first have to be traded on centralized exchanges and have a lot of volume there, which seems unlikely because like it's used, like its utility is all on chain, right? It's not really I mean, you can speculate on price, obviously, but like it has a bunch of utility, is my understanding. So yeah, I'm not sure what the point of putting it on a centralized exchange would be. All right, JDB says Oracle cost could be another impediment to competitors. You mean other competitors would also have to pay the Oracle cost? I think very few of our competitors, or none. Yeah, I think none are using Pith. None of the dexes, that is. Other apps on Solana do use Pith, but not the dexes, as far as I know. Bandit 0x says, Pith Senpai, you better not rug us. Yeah, nah. I think, I mean, if they make it too expensive, they're rugging themselves, so I think it'll be fine. All right, Metaverse asks, any other projects approached you for the same deal as UXD yet? And how are you guys reaching out? Yeah, so we reached out soon after we made the announcement through our Medium article. And let's see. I mean, yeah, projects definitely have reached out. At first, we reached out to a bunch, but then after that, some others which we hadn't considered also reached out. So, yeah, more on the way. You can look forward to that. JDB says yes. Regarding the Oracle cost, competitors paying the Oracle cost thing. Yes, if someone was trying to compete, replicate Liffinity, then they would also be subject to whatever Pith charges. I see. So, yeah, talking about competitors who try to do what we do. Yeah, that's true. That would increase the barrier to entry. Yeah. All right. My persona asks, why not have a smart contract option per address to select if distribution should be in VE Liffinity or tokens? So you can do pooled buying and do distributions. Yeah, so I think what you're saying is we could create a vault where everyone has the option to deposit their VE Liffinity, and then if they want it to be compounded, then they can just deposit in that vault. And then all the VE Liffinity in that vault, all their rewards will be compounded. And if you don't put it in the vault, then you can just claim the way you do right now. Yeah, so that actually is an option we considered. And I can't speak to the details, but apparently like it adds a bunch of complexity to rewards claiming and stuff. So it was deemed suboptimal. So yeah, currently that's not the option we are looking to do. But yeah, I mean like theoretically that does make sense. So yeah, we did consider it. Metaverse says, I would say it's a good idea to get a Pith alligator in case. It will give us any extra edge for tokens or access, etc. I mean, I think I disagree. Like, if they make it, so for example, if they do something like, okay, if you have a Pith alligator, you get 50% discount on fees. I think that would be a horrible business decision. It would skyrocket the price of Pith alligators and also significantly decrease the revenue of the data providers. Because basically, whoever is consuming the most data just buys a Pith alligator and then they get 50% off. So their largest customers, they lose like 50% from their largest customers. And whoever has a Pith alligator gets all the upside of that. So I don't know what the point of that would be. And there's like only 100 of them, right? Like it'd be really weird if they gave that kind of advantage to these NFT holders, like just 100. Yeah, I think I don't know. It just seems very unlikely to me. My persona says because otherwise we need to do one Solana transaction per coin claim per address. And then each click will be market buying instead of you guys phasing out the buys properly. I mean, I think, in fact, this is another argument for having the transactions being done by the user instead of the protocol. Because how do we do these market buys smoothly? Like, that's not a easy question to answer. And also, like, it can get easily front run. Like, the more it's done by one centralized entity, even if governed by like an algorithm that does the purchases, like that's still easier to front run than like thousands of participants doing it randomly. Um, so I mean, like in a set, like slightly more inconvenient, right? Because they have to do all the transactions themselves instead of the protocol doing it. But yeah, it would definitely be more open to exploitation than users doing it themselves individually. Yeah, I guess there's just no perfect solution, unfortunately. But yeah, people want this, so we're building it. TLDR. Metaverse says, or it could be 5%, or the 100 gives, or 100 give you increased access to the team or extra tools. I mean, no one has more access to their team than us. Okay, I'm slightly exaggerating, but like, we're very well connected with Pith. Like, we don't need increased access. Um, Extra tools. If they limited their tools based on whether you have an NFT, also a very bad business decision. I mean, imagine like, hey, we have this SDK, and it has some secret functions that you can only access if you have the NFT. Like, like limiting your composability significantly. So, yeah, like, yeah, we're not gonna speculate on pith alligators. Yeah, it's just not gonna happen. Um, cool. Okay, metaverse again. Okay, what about just being supportive to the protocol you need to survive? I mean, we are. Like, our DEX is what's supporting it. Dude, did you buy a pith alligator and you're trying to get us to raise the price? Like, what is this obsession with pith alligators? Like, us using pith is the greatest support we can give them. Like, uh, we're giving them great visibility, and I mean them to us as well. Like, on Twitter, like we retweet each other's stuff. We often tag Pith because, yeah, we are reliant on their Oracle, and they're great. That's the greatest support we're giving them. I don't think they really care if we buy their NFT or not. Let's see, where am I? Yeah, okay. So my persona asks, where can we see what's the balance sheet of the protocol owned liquidity? Yeah, so the last time we gave an update on this was soon after the VE IDO. Would love to give another update. Um, in fact, would love to have this in the data dashboard so you can just see it live all the time. But that'll take some time to implement. So the reason, so yeah, it actually takes a bunch of effort to aggregate all the data into an easily consumable form of what the current state of the POL is, which is why we don't do it like frequently. And also, we're looking to make some purchases, adding liquidity to our pools, and also buying liquidity for new pools. So yeah, we were kind of waiting to do that before giving the update, because if we did it after, people would be asking again, can you give another update? So yeah, that's kind of the current plan. Waiting till we deploy more liquidity and then giving the update. Yeah. All right. So uh, second part of the question. And the yield we are generating is 24% APY with perhaps less than 50% of capital deployed. Yes, about 50% of capital deployed. Oh yeah, I guess maybe less now because the price of the assets we did deploy went down. So yeah, and the other half was USDC, so that is now more than 50%, I think. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're generating a total of 24% APY, half of which is used for buybacks and half distributed to VE Liffinity holders. Okay, continuing with the question. Can you include these in the metrics you are publishing? Let's see. You mean the monthly revenue images? The one that says 12% APR per VE Liffinity. We could. Yeah, I mean, I imagine there is some confusion on that front. Let's see. I don't know if it'd be useful to mention how much of our capital we deployed. I mean, like, we don't want to include too much in the graphic, right? Because it's basically, like, if you know, you know. So it doesn't even need to be shown. And I feel like this is more of an outward facing graphic. Like it does let the community know the APR. I think that's the most significant part. But then also like it's great for showing people who are not in the Liffinity ecosystem that one, we're distributing our sustainable yield to our token holders. And yeah, kind of lost my train of thought. But yeah, so I'm not sure if it would be useful to include all those little details in the infographics. But yeah, I might need to think about that a little bit more. Maybe you can remind me later. All right, continuing with the same question. Also, given a down market, I assume all deployed protocol-owned liquidity is going to have dropped in price a lot. What does the dev roadmap look like to utilize the rest of the funds? Okay, so first, I guess I mentioned earlier that the price had gone down for the assets we bought, like the Sol, BTC, ETH, etc. What does the dev roadmap look like to utilize the rest of the funds? Do we see a world where APY goes to like 48% with double the capital deployed? 48, like I wouldn't say I don't think it would double. That's optimistic because Sol USDC is our best pool, right? And probably any other pool will not be as good as Sol USDC. So the API we have right now is relatively high compared to whatever new pools we're going to add would be my guess. So yeah, 48% probably a bit optimistic is my guess. What does a dev roadmap look like to utilize the rest of the funds? Basically, we're just going to add more pools and deploy more liquidity. That's basically it. Yeah. Okay, I think I answered all those questions. Let me know if you need any more clarification or if I missed something. 000X, peacing out. Thanks for joining in. Autocatalytic says, a while back you mentioned Serum as a potential competitor. Has your view updated? No. I mean, so to be exact, it's not Serum that's the competitor per se, but the market makers on Serum. So sometimes the market makers become much less active and recently they haven't been as active as they used to be. And that's part of the reason why we raised fees, because before we had to lower them to be competitive with the market makers on Serum, but now they're not as active, so we can raise them and still be more competitive, basically. So yeah, this is constantly changing. Yeah. Benox says, is Luffy Peblo? Who is Peblo? Is that a One Piece character? I don't even know. My persona says, are the flare funds separate from the protocol owned liquidity? Yeah, so some people have been calling it flare owned liquidity, which I think is a good term. FOL. So yeah, they are separate from the protocol owned liquidity. The flare owned liquidity is composed of the funds that we raised from the sale of the flares. And the protocol owned liquidity is composed of funds we raised from the VE IDO. Continuing with the question, those are just two completely separate metrics in terms of APY, and they sometimes share the profitable pools like Sol USDC. Yeah, so they basically have a proportional share of the pools. So like if protocol owned liquidity was 80% of all the assets and flare owned liquidity was 20% of all the assets, then protocol owned liquidity will have 80% of the pools, and 20% of pools is flare owned liquidity. And yeah, last time we released the report of our liquidity and how it's distributed, we showed like what percent the flare owned liquidity and the protocol owned liquidity, how much of it they had. So yeah, in our next update, you'll be able to see that too. Metaverse says, how's the team going? More specifically, are they eating well, getting out of the house and getting some sunshine? Are you exercising, Durden? Yeah, I did some squats yesterday. My hamstrings, is that your hamstrings? Those leg muscles on the underside, I think. Yeah, those are killing me right now. Sunshine, yeah, I like sunshine. Sometimes I go on my rooftop, take my shirt off, get that vitamin D, you know. Am I eating well? I think so. Yeah, I think so. I can't speak for the other team members. I don't know if they're getting their vitamin D or exercising, but you have to ask them yourselves. Let's see. All right, no one on Twitter. Metaverse says, they never come here though. You are the only vocal team member. This is by design. That is how things should be. Task switching is a big cost if you're not familiar with it. There's a bunch of literature on it. If they were
One relationship with Durden.
say that again.
Said you build one reputation, one relationship with the project through Durden. You have a standardized interface so everyone gets a consistent experience, and that experience is Durden. That's a great one.
Glad to hear it. Yeah, that is the strategy. Like they are developing the protocol, like they're programming, or at least that's a lot of what they do. And if you're constantly switching between checking Discord and writing your program, like that will make your programming experience that much worse, that much slower, that much less quality. And so it's important that they are able to stay focused without distractions on that. So having me as like a dedicated Discord guy is good rather than like, spreading it evenly among us, for example. It wouldn't be good. Um, Downside is you don't get to hear them talk, I guess. All you get is me. Deal with it. All right, my persona asks, how is the team salaries, etc. funded? So 20% of, or about 20% of the funds raised in the VEIDO went to fund the team. So that is how we are funded. When do the team's Liffinity tokens unlock? So we have a 6-month cliff from the VEIDO, and our tokens will be vested over 4 years. So it's been about 2 months since the IDO, so about 4 months later, our tokens will start unlocking. I will announce it when we start unlocking, so you can all dump. Actually, I had this thought. I was like, because I feel pretty indifferent between selling the Liffinity and locking the Liffinity. So from like your guys' perspective, if I sell the Liffinity, the price goes down. If I lock the Liffinity, I dilute your rewards. So it's like, which do you prefer? I might actually ask. Say what?
You can airdrop them to us.
The third option. Nah, dude, I'm not that benevolent. Come on.
Talk.
That is true. Maybe it's about time I boot you. But yeah, I was thinking like maybe I will hold a vote to ask what people would prefer me to do, just for fun. But because I actually do feel kind of indifferent, I would be okay with both options. I feel like. Let's see.
Guess what? Eventually, this system is going to withstand any type of project team, and you're going to be one of us. Lock like everyone else and become part of the overall system.
Yeah, that is the ultimate goal, although it'll be a difficult and winding path to get there, I'm sure. Uh, Governance of DeFi protocols has always been really difficult. It seems like it's hard to find it being done very well. But yeah, we hope to get there someday. Um, yeah, continuing with my persona's questions. How are you feeling given the bear market? It's a great project and very, very underrated. Will you guys be able to survive motivation wise in the bear market? Yeah, I don't see why not. Like personally, I find working for Liffinity very fun. It's the best job I've ever had. It's very intellectually stimulating. I think for me, that's like one of the most important aspects of a job is that it's intellectually stimulating, which I find this to be. It's also like there's not a strict schedule of like you gotta be working from this time to that time. Anyways, just speaking for myself, like I'm very motivated. I very much enjoy what I'm doing. Bear market, like, I mean, we were ready for it, right? Like, we were literally born in the bear market. Okay, that's not true. I guess the project was started to be developed in during the bull market last year. Back in team started coding in May or something before I joined. But our launch when we really started to gain some traction, that was in the bear market, and we did our VEIDO in the bear market. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's totally normal. I'm totally used to it by now, basically. And like we're doing really well even in a bear market, so it's like I don't know, doesn't bother me at all. And like you know what they say about projects that are built during the bear market? You do know what they say about those projects, right? So yeah, I feel pretty good about where we are. Um, Durden is a really amazing relations guy, super deep technically. I've never seen anyone as good as I've interacted with. Hats off. Thanks, sir. I appreciate that. All right, K57 says bear market lasts since 6 months. We already made it halfway. Yeah, I mean, who knows how much longer it'll be? I certainly don't know. But yeah, we're doing good. We're doing fine. My persona says obviously quote lock and quote hodl. So long-term skin in the game. Oh, referring to what I do with my team tokens. Yeah, I mean, I'm down. Um, yeah, and I can just imagine some people preferring me to sell because all they care about is the revenue being distributed to them. Like, if you're just planning to hold forever, for example, then you don't want me to lock. You want me to sell. Because then, one, your rewards don't get diluted, and two, you get to buy Liffinity cheaper. So yeah, I could imagine like there's people who
I would assume the only value add you have is if you lock or sell
value add to who?
to the ecosystem, to the protocol, to everything.
Oh,
You want to incentivize it. I mean, it's the same thing. The same reason you give stock as incentives in large-scale businesses because you want to incentivize high talent and people you want to be long-term contributors to the protocol. We want Durden to lock because we want him to be here in the long term. Because you know what, Durden, you have a job right now, but who knows what's going to happen long term? Who knows? Nothing's finite. But if you lock, you're stuck in the protocol. We know at least 4 years. So lock.
yeah. I mean, I think the other way can be. What was I gonna say? I mean, yeah. Obviously, that makes sense. Um, but yeah, I can easily imagine.
I just like to cause trouble. So
Yeah, for real. No, but I can totally imagine people arguing for the other. Anyways, if I do that, that'll be a fun experiment. See what the community says I should do. Oh yeah, I was gonna say like since we were vested over 4 years, like in terms of like incentive alignment, um, like it doesn't seem like a problem even if I sold. Like there's still like a really long time where I'm still incentivized to do what's good for the protocol because I have 4 whole years left. But anyways, yeah. Let's see. Hey, Farmer says, "Hey Durden, just wanting to get an idea what's on the agenda at the moment for the Liffinity team at the moment for the short to midterm." Right. Let's see. So, I mean, to be honest, we're like always working on so many things simultaneously. That's what it feels like. So one thing is more pools, more market making as a service / liquidity as a service partnerships. So in talks with a bunch of teams regarding that. There's volatility adjusted fees. There's the compound to VE Liffinity button. What else was there? This is like something where Luffy would be able to give a better answer. He has it all laid out, I believe. There's a monthly newsletter coming out, which will be pretty fucking dope. Like, you ain't ever seen a newsletter so detailed in your life. Let's see what else. Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of making a proposal regarding solvent and providing liquidity to SVT Flare, which is their what do you call that? Their fractionalized version of flares. And providing liquidity to that using our bought back flares. Let's see. And then there's the proposal regarding X-Liffinity. Yeah, I feel like there's still some discussion left to do with that. Yeah, so those are some of the things that come immediately to mind. There's probably some other things too, but yeah, a lot to keep track of. And we got some AMAs coming up with Samo and Metaplex tomorrow and the day after. Yeah, those are some things. All right. Metaverse says, how did the team's efforts go in hiring and expanding? Is not a good time or bad? Or is now a good time or bad? Yeah, so after the VE IDO, we decided not to expand the team. The main reason was the amount we raised. Definitely enough to keep our team going, but if we had expanded the team, that would have limited our runway quite a bit. So yeah, we decided it's better to keep the team small and yeah. So the trade-off there is with a smaller team, you can develop your development will be slower naturally, but yeah, you don't have to pay as much. But also another further advantage of small teams is that it's easier to organize. There's less overhead, communicating and making sure everyone's on the same page and all that. So yeah, there is definitely an advantage to that as well. And I feel like our team is like doing quite a lot. But I don't know, like I'm the one doing the stuff, so maybe it's just me that feels like it. I don't know what it looks like from your guys' perspective, but anyhow, yeah. And then they follow up exactly how many people now? Any outsourcing code? No outsourcing. Well, it depends how you define that. Like we have our core contributors, which is the four of us, which you can see on our team channel in our Discord. And then we have a couple part-time contributors. Those are the burninators in our Discord. So if you consider part-time contributors to be outsourcing code, yeah, I guess it just depends on that. But yeah, so there's basically six of us. All right, and Lieutenant Lollipops asks, sorry, what's that?
I said the community's part of the team.
I mean, yeah, you can definitely, in one sense,
Street marketing.
yeah, exactly. Like the community is definitely important for marketing. So thank you, community. Let's see. So you say when bribes? Yeah, bribes later. I mean, the before we can do bribes, we need to create the infrastructure for selling discounted VE Liffinity for LP tokens. So that comes first. And we won't do that until we've deployed all our liquidity and we need more liquidity. Like, if we don't need more liquidity, then there's no purpose for that infrastructure for selling discounted VE Liffinity.
So I'm saying that bribe should go to DMs.
Oh yeah. If you're talking about some other bribes, yeah, just hit me up. You know. I mean, actually, I have no idea what you would bribe me for, but Let's see. My persona asks, what does the team runway look like? Like how many months and how to sustain it long term once 20% of the IDO funds are exhausted? Yeah, so actually we can measure it in years. We have multiple years of runway. So given the current team size. So yeah, I think we're pretty well funded. Not enough to expand the team, but yeah, to continue on, we're good. And then also after 1 year, if you look in our part 4 of our tokenomics, we mentioned that 10% of the protocol revenue will be used for continued development. So that will be going to us, at least initially. Again, like the future vision is that like we become much more decentralized, and those funds can be directed to whatever outside contributors. I mean outside as in like, well, everyone becomes an outside quote outside contributor. But yeah, for the time being, when we're the main developers of the protocol, that will be directed to us. So that will help us to continue longer as well. Let's see. Yeah, so bottom line, I think we're in a good place, which is amazing given that we don't even have any VCs. Or to put it differently, you guys are the VCs for us. So yeah, thank you for your support. And we're going to keep building. K57 says, thank you, Durden, for the AMA. Team is awesome. Project is awesome. Take care and do some sport. Thanks, man. I will try to play a sport. What sport should I play? I have no idea. I used to play sports a lot in high school, but not really anymore. All right, well, I think we've reached the end of our questions, unless Quantity has, or no, they just say, great AMA session, picked up more flares. Oh, thank you. Very nice. You Love God just arrived. Yeah, we can do a music party after this. Actually, I was planning to play that YouTube link you posted yesterday, I think. Yeah, for those who don't know, You Love God is like our music guru, always posting those sweet tunes that we can listen to after the AMA for a chill time together. Yeah. French Canadian musique. It's unique. You might want to skip some. Sounds good. All right, but yeah, I think we've exhausted the questions. Thanks for all the good questions, everyone. Yeah, I guess that's it. So if you want to chill out with some music, stick around. Otherwise, thanks for joining, and see you next time.